jump right into it. Second quarter financials.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We'll keep this fairly brief. So page 8 of 61 in packet is the first page we'll go over. That's the second quarter expenditure actuals to targets. As you can see, we use the red light, yellow light, green light system. Everything looks good, except for we spent a lot on facilities this year, so that's over budget through 6 months. And our sales tax is coming in a little under our projections. Now, there's a couple month lag, so we've only received 4 months of sales tax, so this is January to April we're actually reporting to, so we're a little below where we want to be. Other than that, everything looks good for the expenditures for the first half of 2026. Any questions on this page? So then we can leap into page 9 of 61, which is our cash and investment page. Every quarter, we got to talk about safety, liquidity, and yield. Slide, that's our goal here. We want to keep our money safe, keep enough liquid to meet our obligations, and then earn as much yield as we can. In total, we're at 47 million cash and investments at the end of June 30th. It's a snapshot in time. Obviously, it changes daily. First quarter was 48 million, so pretty much static. We have about the same as we did in the first quarter. No concerns here either. We continue as investments mature, we roll them over. So we build our ladder. We're through 2031, so we have a 5.5-year ladder now. We're at least 250,000 or more mature every month. Our yield is in the 3 to 4.2 category if you combine all of our long-term investments into one pool. So we're about the 4% we're earning on the long-term investments. Questions on this page? If not, we can go to the presentation.
Yes.
Thanks.
Am I doing that or are you?
You are. I'll assist.
Okay. I can't keep track of what I had for breakfast, let alone all the things we're trying to do here at City Hall sometimes. We wanted to share with you capital improvement planning as we look at the 2026 budget. We break it down by personnel, capital improvement, and operating. We talked about financial management plan earlier about trying to keep our tax rate the same next year. That is going to be a little bit of a challenge for us to do. If the presentation happens.
Yep.
On other screens, yes. Can you see that, Councilor Peterson?
No, I can't. I have another way of looking at it though.
It's got the register.
This does not include a capital improvement request for new monitors and displays. Hang on just a second. So we have a 5-page presentation here, and for each year. This is 2027, and what we did was we simply broke out. We wanted to see what was requested in the general fund. As you know, in the past, we've budgeted about 500,000, a little over 500,000 each year for capital improvements. But we have a number of these that are going to put us way over. So we wanted to get some direction from you on that. So we're going to go, this is 27, is 1.3 million. I'll touch base on this a little bit more, but let's look at 28. So 28 shows, we got a generic placeholder of 500,000 for building. As you recall, we did a facility management plan for this building, so we've got a placeholder of 500,000 there. We're looking at carpeting and payment of a new loader and some equipment for the Public Works Department. One of the things I want to point out is that we always have this kind of weird thing where we list the squads as capital improvements. We buy 2 squads every year, and we list those as capital improvements, but we fund those as operating. So while we list this here, you could theoretically take off the 150 because that'll just be the operating expenses. Then in 29, we're at 720,000. Again, we have a placeholder for 400,000 for improvements and repairs to this building. Again, 155 for the squads, so a total of 165 for a payment on the loader and the rubber tire loader. Then in 30, again, we have placeholders, and then we're looking at some replacements of squads. Again, there's 150, and then some, that 624 loader is a payment that we're making a payment on those loaders. And then finally, it's 2031, we get the squads. We're looking at potentially a huge storage facility, and then we would add replace a tandem plow truck. But I want to go back to 2027, and in fact, this happens every year. The front year is really heavily loaded, and then the back ones aren't as quite as much. But I want to just walk through those. We have been talking about the chiller replacement for this building for a number of years, and we really do need to do something. We had some equipment failure. I don't know all the details of this last weekend, but we had 85 degrees in the police department, not last weekend, but the weekend before. There was some talk about people were throwing steam onto the furniture for sound. We've talked about potentially demolishing Old City Hall. We had a placeholder there of 350,000. We need some improvements to the police locker room. And again, as you recall, the police side of this building is going on almost 30 years old. They moved in 1999. So we need to do some replacements there. We're looking at some election machines, fire suppression upgrades, election machines. The mobile and portable radios for the fire department is 412,000, but we've got a grant and we made a request for a grant that could potentially fund a majority of that. But at this point, we don't know if we're going to get the grant or not. But we are going to need to do something with mobile radios in the fire department in the near future. Squad tablets and for the computers, we're replacing squads, the tablets and computers in all of our squads. We're doing some of that this year, and then the second part of that project will happen in the first part of next year. We're looking at the purchase of a loader or lease of a loader, and that would be $665,000. And then we have the first kind of repair on the Boulder Trail, $45,000. I think the third issue here is you could back out the squads, right? So now you're at 1.2 million, but you're looking at chiller replacement of 350 and City Hall demo was 350. If we had to pick, we'd probably replace the chiller before we worry about Old City Hall and maintain that for another year. Or we look at potential other funding sources for that. If we had to make a choice, we'd probably need a fire suppression upgrade for the police locker room. So I guess looking for some thoughts, directions from the city council on this.
On the old City Hall property, has there been any further discussions about development over there?
There's been some ongoing conversations about that, and we've had some people express interest in it.
If
Yeah.
something were developed, I don't let them knock it down.
Yeah.
What would it cost to upkeep for the year instead of not open?
We wouldn't do any major upgrades, so I mean, I think the budget for that building is only like $30,000. Kevin?
Yeah, probably even a little less than that.
Okay.
What's prompting the loader purchase?
The loader bridge, the other one is, got 20,000, just short of 20,000 miles on it.
So it's replacing one?
Yes, correct.
Again, if even if we take out Old City Hall and, you know, even if we take 400,000 out of that, we're still over $500,000 a month. If we're gonna try to maintain the tax levy rate at that same rate, we're gonna have to look at cutting this even more. Is there at least consensus about chiller replacement over Old City Hall?
Yeah.
We'll just kind of, Old City Hall, we'll kind of see what, if anything happens there.
Fire suppression, that's in this building?
That's in this building, some upgrades and fixes.
John, if I may, Zach, on armor radios, for some reason I thought we had a 5% match on that. Is that a different grant that I'm thinking of?
No, that's if we get it, it's only 5%.
So,
But it's also only portables right now, so that number, if we got the grant, that number would be down to about 100,000. If we got the grant.
We might be being conservative there too, actually.
that's where I was going with it.
Even if we try to push some of these things back, I mean, I think the biggest question here is, and one of the things that we need to think about is just, this building is in good shape, but it's also, you need to continue to maintain it. And the police department is going on 30 years, the police fire side of the building is going on 30, and even this side of the building is going on 20. Time flies, we're having fun, right? So there's been 20, they moved in this side of the building in 2008. So we need to start thinking about, you know, the maintenance plan for this building. One of the potential alternatives is taking a bigger picture of that instead of doing $500,000 every year is maybe we look at how we package those replacements and those upgrades into a bond package, and then bond that out over 20 years. That would require us to take a look at that a little bit closer in terms of the timing and what all needs to be done.
Any way to package them into services?
We use the loader, work on the sewer system?
I don't think you could, you know, the sales tax allowed us to build this building, but I don't think you can use the sales tax for ongoing maintenance of it. That'd be my reading of that. We're gonna keep working on this, but we wanted you to be aware of kind of the pressures that we're facing in terms of some of the capital improvements. Again, we've been at 535,000 for at least 5 years, and we haven't really upgraded it much. There might have been a couple of years where we've gone up to 570, but we've generally been at 535. On some of the municipal building ones, we do have some money in municipal building reserves, but then we'd be spending down reserve money, which is an option. Don't we do that forever?
How much do we put in that every year?
I thought we were putting in 50,000 the last couple of years. So it's about,
400,000, I think.
pardon?
A couple 100,000, I believe, is in there. It's a 50,000 we're paying.
So it's not, if you spent the 350, I
We
complete.
wipe it out.
But that's a way of kind of self-funding it.
Right, right.
What else would we be saving that money for? Like, I understand moving forward, you may have to spend a little more on the general levy until the fund builds itself back up, but that's the whole point of the fund, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. But municipal building reserve is, we kind of put that money aside, where it's like, okay, something has to be done this year, and it's not, a terrible number. It's $40,000 or $50,000. That's what we've been trying to kind of keep it for,
Small projects.
relatively small projects. Kevin, you want to add anything?
No, I mean, we obviously have pressures on the budget if we're gonna keep it at 535, we're crushed on the CIP, so we just need some direction on whether we need to cut it to 535, or we can go over 535, there's so much. Obviously, each year is like that in this presentation to me.
The bad news is, it's bad news. The good news is, every year we figure it out somehow. One way or the other, we figure something out. We are scheduling a work session on the budget in total for the last Monday in August.
General fund budget.
Pardon?
The general.
The general fund budget, because we want to do that before we have to set the preliminary levy. We're hoping that by the first, by that meeting, that we'll have information from the county in terms of what's happening with the tax base. And again, depending upon the growth in the tax base, that could ease some of that pressure in terms of trying to keep the tax rate at a 0% increase.
Sure.
So, Joe?
John, that was the point I wanted to make, right? When John says it's bad news, that's simply because we also, in this council, tasked us in a good way to maintain a 0.0 taxing rate increase, which is phenomenal and rare compared to any other community that's around us. Others are facing tax increases. So we've been able to maintain this both through your region and through the staff's efforts. So while it is bad news on a 0.0, it is not bad news when we talk about comparing us to problems other cities might be facing or other folks are making those choices. We think that there's an avenue to get there, and it might be challenging this year.
Well, and I think that part of that point is that trying to follow the direction of the city council in that regard, but also, the easier thing to do is simply put our head in the sand and not deal with issues. And so it's like we want to be honest about what the needs are and how we can try to address those. And if that means putting some things off, that's okay, as long as we all know that we're doing that intentionally. There's nothing worse than, just, putting your head in the sand, like, oh, we'll worry about it later. It's like, okay, no, we know we have to deal with it, we're all gonna put it off with intention. So,
And to your point, John, my concern is like some of these things, I'll use the term kick the can down the road, and we as staff members decide that, well, we're just gonna kick this can down the road, and then a council after I'm retired or something will be like, what were you thinking? We have a turnover, and they're like, what, we have all this deferred maintenance, what were they thinking? And that's my concern, is that it comes back later that we want to memorialize it, that we intentionally did that if we make those cuts.
John, that work session on the general fund budget, just so we all have it on the same, is it August 24th or the 31st? Because that happened last time.
There is every possibility I won't be at that one.
I have it penciled in for the 24th, the fourth Monday.
I do as well.
Okay.
Make sure we are all.
4:30.
Yes.
Tell Kylie to cross her legs.
Certainly that would be an excused absence. So let's pencil that in on the 24th. Meanwhile, we're going to continue to kind of work through this. We're reviewing preliminary budgets this week. And even in operations, we're going to have some pressures as well. We're going to work through that this week as well.
Any topic for July?
Yeah, we're going to work through some of the AUAR. Okay, any other questions about that? We're going to go on to kind of the utility maintenance from David Ball and the 400-foot rule, but I'm going to go first. Okay. We have talked at length, I'll just pass this down. We've talked at length about the issue of currently, if your system, your sewer system is, there's new construction or your on-site system, the private system, your on-site system is failing, or you're remodeling your house, you're going to add load to that system, or St. Louis, you're transferring the property, and the county says you need to upgrade it because it's a definitional failure. If you're within 400 feet of a sewer that passes in front of your property, then you're required to hook up under the current ordinance. And that's found in, I'm going to copy that for you, section 930.03 is this. It used to be that if you were within 400 feet, you had to connect. Since I've been here, we've changed it to say that if your private system continues to work and you don't need to upgrade even when you change ownership, the county comes and inspects it and says, your system's working fine, there's no need for an upgrade, you do not need to connect. Previously, you had to connect within your 400 feet. There's been some talk about, potential expansion into the Adolph area of whether or not we want to continue to have that requirement. So we went back and looked at, well, why was the 400 foot in there? And we couldn't find any other source that said, like WSD said you had to connect, or the county or something like that. So we looked at that. So we don't know exactly how 400 feet was determined. But we did look at the building code, and Brandon, if I understood this correctly, is that if you're within 200 feet of a available public sewer, then you do have to connect under the building code.
Yes, they allow an exception if your system is still compliant, like you say, but otherwise, yes.
So theoretically, we could reduce our ordinance and say compliant with the building code, which would be 200 feet. That would be the alternative there. It has been my impression is that as a general rule, is that once somebody's system is failing and they have access to it, they don't object to the 400 feet. They only object to the 400 feet because like, I don't want to hook up because my system is working fine. And then we said, if your system is working, that is fine, you don't need to connect. We had a couple of them several years ago, I want to say 2014, along the Lake Road, long driveways, and it was, they were like 420 feet. He says, if you're over 400, you don't have to connect as long as your system is working. So what we could do is we could change this ordinance and say it's 200 feet per building code. And again, as long as your system is working. If your system is working, you don't need to connect. But again, my impression is that hooking up to the city sewer when you're within 200 or even 400 feet is preferable than to do and have a new private system put in. Certainly, I was thinking about this, is that if you build a private system, you don't have a monthly charge, but you gotta maintain it, you gotta pump it every 2 years probably. I know that from experience. And you have a big expense at the front end, but with a public system, you have a little smaller expense in the front end, but then you do have the monthly bill. And as long as it's working, nobody thinks about it, right? As long as you flush it and it goes away, you don't think about it.
So are you suggesting we make an ordinance change on this from 400 to 200?
That's up to you. I mean, I don't know the history of why it's 400. I think 400 works, but it's like, if your sense is you'd like to change that, then we could rewrite that ordinance to that effect. But before we just vote it, we wanted to have that conversation, talk about, why was it there? What are some of the other factors? The other thing I did include attached to that was the sewer availability charge. We updated this in 2022 and basically said that if you want to connect to the city sewer, if you were in a developer lot where a developer built a lot, your connection, you did not have to pay the availability. Because the developer paid for that, and you bought a lot that was assumed in the lot price, you had to pay. But if for some reason a lot was added, then there would be an availability charge. Or on an assessment project, if you paid the assessment, then there's no availability charge. But in some cases, what we were seeing was that there was a very large parcel that paid one assessment, and then they split it and as 5 houses. Well, in kind of as a matter of fairness and about the value of the sewer, we set this availability policy that said the availability is $5,000. So if you have not paid an assessment, if you're not in a lot that was created by a subdivision and built by a developer, and you created this lot separately, then there's an availability charge of $5,000.
Plus the hookup fee.
Plus the hookup fees. It's just an availability charge.
Is that the same amount for the water?
I want to say the water is $2,500. I didn't look at water, I just did sewer tonight, so. And again, the thought was at that point in time, there is value to that, and certainly 5,000 is cheaper than, building a private system.
Yeah, that, I do have an issue with that line of thought, though, because we've heard that line of thought a lot. You still have to pay the plumber to hook your house up to utilities. It's not like $5,000 and proof your house is hooked up to
Absolutely.
utilities. When you add in the $5,000 plus the cost of hooking up, I'm not sure there's a huge cost savings compared to a septic. But that's
That's how far back your house is.
depends how far your house is away, I understand. I guess my thought is, this isn't a, my thought is as long as your lot's big enough, I don't think the city should have any say in whether you have a private system or hook up to a public system. I don't see how that is the city's business at all, but, that's my train of thought. It'll come back to me, I'm sure.
John, could I?
Well, just what, and again, that number was set in 2022. That's not to say you couldn't revisit that number.
So, Mayor and Council, I just want to add a couple things to what John said. So, my understanding of the 400-foot rule was back in 99 and 2000 when we were planning the trunk sewer. We looked at a lot of these houses that were along the alignment, and we just established a round number of 400 feet that seemed reasonable at that time with the information we had, and that got carried forward. And secondly, just a reminder that the $5,000 for availability is a fraction of what it costs. So the recent projects that we've done a feasibility study and have failed, or the feasibility studies that we've done have moved forward, the actual cost per parcel starts at about 25,000, and the one we studied just over here in Maple Grove Road, that came in at over $60,000 per parcel to get just the sewer there. So the availability is, just a reminder, it's a fraction of what it costs to put it in.
And when you're assessed, you pay the assessment plus the same plumbing fee to connect it.
For reference, we put a 5-bedroom septic in last summer, it was 18 bucks. Insane, though, so. My line of thought came back to me, so, give me a second. You know, whether you have a septic or you hook up to utility, doesn't really affect your neighbors at all in any way. So that's kind of where I thought the reach of the city would end. You know, if the city governs, you know, what affects people around you, having a septic doesn't have any effect on anybody around you. Right? I mean, there's rules about what the wells have to be and how far the septic have to be from the property lines, et cetera, et cetera. So those rules, those guidelines are put in place to protect your neighbors from your septic.
Well, and I think that idea is that a public sewer has a lower definition of failure in contaminating the neighbor's water than a private system does. I'm not arguing for it, I'm just saying, that's the logic of it. If the council wants to change it, we'll gladly change it, we'll rewrite the ordinance, but I just, you know, we wanted to kind of have that discussion about, this is kind of why it was and kind of make it sure, and this is the current situation.
How big is it allowed to be for a septic these days? 2.5 acres? Is that what it is?
I think we put one in on 1 acre lot. Could be wrong.
It used to be
One
that.
acre. 1 acre.
It is 1 acre, it's still 1 acre. Okay.
That was 2 years ago. You have to have 2 sites, so if your septic were to fail, you would have to have a secondary approved site already, just to pull your permit.
Which means you're not building a heat house. That's what you're doing.
So again, based upon the press of the council, we can do whatever we want.
Have we looked, this is probably way more in-depth than we've gotten, how many of the houses on Midway Road are within 200 feet of the road?
I asked that question this morning, we didn't know that answer without doing some more homework on it.
I'm curious to know how many houses are actually affected if we do drop the minimum down to 200, or maximum minimum down to 200 feet.
Counselor, I can look at that and have it ready for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Are we looking at 200 or 400?
Yes.
I mean, I would say at the very least, you drop it down and match building code. Yeah, I don't know why we need to be in excess of the building code.
That's what I was thinking.
And then I'd be curious to know how many houses that affects.
I would have no problem changing it to 200 to match the building code. That's the residential building code, right?
It's found in the plumbing code, which is chapter 4714 of the state building code.
One of those rabbit holes, you gotta go to 4 different standards before you find
Sometimes that's process, right?
And it's more often than not.
David, you want to walk through kind of utility maintenance? So some of this information was provided to you at the last meeting, or some of them weren't here. So was asked to have David kind of review that information again. So go ahead, David.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is just I gave a presentation the last pre-agenda meeting about this, and I'm just gonna kind of recap what I said before for somebody that did not hear this, but I'm talking about the current state of our public utilities, sanitary sewer, water main, and storm sewer. So we'll start with just a brief overview of each utility, the operating revenue, the operating expenses, and then I'm going to look at what a utility bill looks like for user of 50,000 gallons a day. So with that said, start with the sanitary sewer system. We have about 79 miles of sanitary sewer, and that's comprised of 62 miles of gravity pipe, 17 miles of force main, and 17 different lift stations throughout the city. And we have 2 discharge points, one at Haynes and 53, and then one on Getchell. They both flow down to WSSD. We have approximately 2,300 sanitary sewer customers. From our 2025 audit, we have an operating revenue of $1.9 million, which is primarily from user fees and service charges. Also, from the 25 audit, the operating expenses are approximately $1.7 million, which includes personnel, fees to WSSD, maintenance, and depreciation. The water main system consists of approximately 76 miles of water main. We have 2 water towers, one on Highway 53, a 600,000 gallon tank, 150,000 gallon tank at Hawk Circle Drive by the elementary school. We use, on average, just under 600,000 gallons per day. We have one connection to the city of Duluth up on Haynes Road by the jail, and we are currently constructing the second connection down on Haynes Road and Anderson Road. We have approximately 2,400 water main customers, so we have a few more residents on water than we do on sewer. And again, from our 25 audit, the operating revenue for the water system is $2.4 million, which is comprised of user fees and service charges. Our operating expenses are almost identical at $2.4 million, which includes personnel, payment to the city of Duluth, maintenance, and depreciation. So the next piece here is storm sewer. I did not cover that 2 weeks ago at our previous pre-agenda, but I've got some rough data there on the storm sewer. We maintain, about 17 miles of storm sewer, 34 miles of curb and gutter, well over 100 miles of ditches between gravel and paved roads. We have 6 bridges within the city that we maintain. Every property in the city is benefits from the storm sewer system, and there are 3,300 customers on that. Again, from the audit in 25, there's about $500,000 in user fees and service charges, and the operating expenses in 25 were a little bit less than revenue at $335,000, which again are personnel, maintenance, and depreciation. Any questions on that before I go into what a utility bill may look like?
Just one comment on the stormwater is that at the end of 25, revenues were over expenditures. But typically what happens is we fund parts of our road improvement program with those. And so in 25, we didn't have as many road improvements as we did in previous years. So there are other years where sometimes we're over expenditures are over. So 25 was a good year, and we've got a couple of big road projects coming up in this 27 with Lightning Drive, and then 28 potentially with Stedman Road.
Okay, so one more thing I'd like to add, that I did not mention tonight is the maintenance. We've been talking with the Public Works and looking at our records. We have virtually no maintenance on any utility that is newer than 10 years old. So another way to say that is we're spending money on the infrastructure that's 10 years and older. So, council, previous meetings, the council have asked, about the data center and water usage. So, per the design documents that we've seen in the AUR, 50,000 gallons a day is the upper limit. And so what I did is I worked with their Lindsay, our utility clerk, to put together what would a utility bill look like for a customer using that much water and that much sewer. So let's start with water, 50,000.
Just a little bit of explanation of that. Is one of the reasons we did that was because we have a tiered system, so that if you use this amount of water, it's at this rate. If you use more, then you pay more. And then there's a third rate that you pay even, and I can't tell you the tiers off the top of my head, but then if you pay over this amount, then you can pay more. So we have, the more you use, the more you pay. Sorry.
Okay, that was on my bullet point.
Oh.
That's okay. So water usage of 50,000 gallons a day. In a month, there's on average 30 days in a month, so that's 1.5 million gallons a month. Like John said, based on a 3-tier building, that equated to $18,400 a month, or times that by 12, you get 220,800 per year. Then, so if you consider that if that money would basically be going into our maintenance system for at least 10 years before that infrastructure would need any maintenance. But historically, that's what our utilities have shown us. So similarly, on the sanitary sewer bill, the sewer bill is based on water usage, and the current rate is $11.31 per 1,000 gallons, which in round numbers equates to about $17,000 per month. Times that by 12 is $204,000 per year.
Is the sanitary, is the sewer the same tiered system, or is that just a flat rate?
It's one rate, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Okay.
Then lastly, the storm sewer bill is based on pervious areas. And per our ordinance and the current rate is $8.87 per ERU, which is equivalent residential unit. And that would equate to $2,700 a month, or $32,400 per year. And again, these numbers, remember, would be full build out and or full build out and using the most amount of water that is allowed. So with that, is there any questions of our current utility?
Just that the general tax line is not used for maintenance of water, sewer, and storm sewers, correct? It's
Right.
utility enterprise funds that fund those things.
Yeah, the water revenue covers all the water expenses in terms of payments to Duluth, depreciation, and maintenance. Same with the sewer. The sewer rates pay for what we need to pay WSD to take it, the depreciation and operating costs.
And the depreciation is really just a pot of money we're putting aside for maintenance and repairs and replacement.
Right. Any other questions about that?
It just historically sewer costs more to maintain because of the lift stations, correct, versus the water is pretty much, water lines are, I mean, we got, I guess, water towers to maintain, so.
And again, all of that water, the fuse for water cover the pipes, the fire hydrants, the booster stations, the connections, and the towers.
So Councilor Geis, I think the opposite is, it's the watering system that costs more per unit than sanitary. And a lot of that has to do with, we pay a lot more to city for the water than we pay to WSD to treat the water. One other interesting, as I was diving into this, I found this interesting. Since 1997, approximately half of the existing sanitary sewer system has been designed and constructed. So in the last 30 years, we've put over half of our sewer system in. Yes, one other thing I have highlighted here that I didn't say is the utilities to the potential data center project would include 10 miles of water main and 4.5 miles of sanitary sewer and 2 new lift stations.
Again, and it's 10 additional miles based upon already on the 79 miles we have.
Correct.
And 4 miles of sewer on top of the existing sewer
Correct.
mains. What's the length of existing sewer mains?
There's 79 miles of sewer.
Okay. So, sorry, the number of miles of pipes for water and sewer is pretty close.
Yeah, the 79 and 76.
Okay.
And the water tower.
And a water tower.
No, the project would
Oh,
include
yeah.
adding number one.
Yes.
Another water tower, booster pumps, pressure release valves, lots of hydrants. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
If not, we're going to go to the regular agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the July 6th City Council meeting minutes, and then the accounts payable for the first half of the month of July. And we only have 4 resolutions. First one is approving insurance coverage and not waiving the monetary limits on municipal tort liability. Kevin, you're going to present this, and Scott Matiziak from Reliable Insurance is here too to answer any questions that you also have. Our new insurance agent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this resolution, as in previous years, it does 2 things. First, it does not waive the monetary limits on our tort liability, and secondly, it approves the quote for 26-27 insurance, which actually the year is a weird day in July. I think it's actually tomorrow is a year-end. So that's what this resolution does. As you can see in the, so we have a resolution, and we have a next page in your packet that compares the last 2 years, or this year and next year. And then the most recent version of the council is Reliable's information for the year on our different insurances. As you can see in the council memo, the insurance premium is going up 16.4%, which is not good news for that budget. But anyway, that is basically, there's two components to that. There's rate increases. An example of a rate increase would be our work comp experience mod goes up. So we pay more insurance. The second thing is we add or we increase items in our insurance. So what did we add? We added Victor Field, actually we increased it. Victor Field, now that we completed it about a year ago, it's now on the insurance for the full year. It's, I believe, going from 1.4 million to 5.4. Anyway, we 4.4. So it's now 4.4. That added $9,171 for premium, just for Victor Field, just for an example. Mary Murphy House, that's another example of something we added this year. That's adding $3,489 per premium. And then we have some rate, we added, or the insurance added 4% to our property values. We added more payroll equals more workers' comp. And so it's made up of added items and some new items. That's the reason for the increase. The other change next year is we're proposing moving from BITCO to the League of Minnesota for work comp. And so we would be with the League of Minnesota for everything except cyber liability. That's going to have a zero, moving from BITCO to the League is going to have a zero or neutral effect on us. One, because we're going to get, we'll be eligible for a refund or what's it called? Rebate from the League of Minnesota that they do annually, and then there'll be some agent fee, if there's any difference, the agent fee amount will be reduced. So it'll be a cost neutral, switching from BITCO to the League. The League will have everything but cyber under this whole year.
But Jim, again, to clarify, is that it'll be cost neutral from what BITCO would have been if we would have stayed. Because even with, if we would have stayed with BITCO, the work comp was increasing.
Excellent point. I didn't say that very well. Questions on this resolution?
Just due to my professional relationship with the agency, I will be abstaining from any discussion and vote.
I have a couple questions. Regarding the limits of some of these building amounts, fire halls 2 and 3 were each 1.1 million. And I guess that seems really light to me if we were to catastrophically lose one of those, even though if it burns down, it's fire department should be there, right?
The irony would not be lost on you.
No, but that seems low. And then building 10 is what's called the Historical Society, which I think is Old City Hall, 5255 Maple Road. That's got a limit of $3 million. I don't think we need $3 million on that.
Scott, you want to explain the process for how these limits are?
The League of Minnesota Cities did a property appraisal back in 2023, where they bring in specialists to come out and evaluate all of the buildings, come up with the appropriate insurance to value calculation. So we went off of their appraisal from 2023, and each year it's gone up 4%.
And then the other question I have, that, I don't know, just to me that the Historical Society isn't $3 million. If we're thinking of tearing it down.
Take the insurance off of it.
Well, I think there's more to it than that, though, because that building is a historical society, would have been for office, plus a little shop space. I believe.
It's the entire building, it's not.
Right.
But, I mean, it's still.
Old City Hall.
If the fire halls are 1.1, that's not worth $3 million.
John, if I could, so all of the buildings are insured on replacement cost. So if we look at the total square footage,
I see.
what would it take to replace that amount of square footage?
In today's dollar.
Correct.
Okay, correct. Okay. Then the other question I had was on the Fichtner's concession, or, Fichtner, it's location 8, property in the open, that went way up from 1.4 to 4.4. I'm assuming that's we're insuring the turf field.
Turf, the skate park, all of the pergolas are in there, the playground facility. So basically, everything that was invested in there, minus the parking lots and masonry sidewalks.
So if somebody took a car out and did a bunch of spins on the field, those kind of things are covered.
Correct.
Okay. And then I saw something about commercial umbrella at 1 million. Is that adequate?
Asking an insurance professional, I would always recommend a higher liability limit, but now, because the city does not waive the tort liability cap, your umbrella usually isn't accessed unless it's at a federal one. Any claims on a federal one.
Those are my questions.
And we're good to go tomorrow with all the insurances?
Correct.
Okay.
When was the last time we used the insurance for the city?
Insurance for what?
For a building or a lift station or anything like that? Do we use
Probably
it?
with a firefighter got a garage door.
Two most recently were both the roof at Public Works and the roof of this building. We were, in our capital improvement plan, we had this building being re-roofed. And then we had, I hate to say this, but fortunately we had hail damage. And we had the insurance cover a big portion. Those are the two most recent examples of we had property damage to city buildings.
Do you think we would have saved more money by going to a $20,000 deductible and offset $10,000 on those claims?
On just the property, or
I just see everything's got a $10,000 deductible on it.
on the
Scotty.
property, yeah.
Do you think there'd be a significant cost savings there?
I mean, honestly, I don't, based on the premiums that you're paying for all the property value that I don't think that it's gonna cut it, even when we save in the deductible. Honestly.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 85 is the acceptance of an easement with the church at the corner of Stepner and Maple Grove for part of the Section 14 Lightning Drive improvement project. Trish, you want to talk about this?
Sure, I can speak to it. So this is, oh, thank you. Thank you, Director and Councilors. This is just one of many of the easements that we have acquired for Lightning Red. And this one was relatively simple. There wasn't a lot of negotiation. It was just more that the owner is in the Twin Cities, but the user is local, and so there's a lot of communications that needed to happen. They didn't negotiate financially so much as they did negotiate for replacement of items that would be removed, which is parking spots. I suppose we reworked those with the engineer. Thank you.
Any questions on that? Resolution 86 is approving a request for proposals for city attorney services. As you know, Governor has expressed his desire to step away from city government. I don't know what crazy idea that is, but so we need to go out for an RFP for legal services. One of the caveats I do have in here is that I wanted, I'm hoping the law firm to have, a reasonable driving time from the area, so that, hey, we need to confer on an issue, we're going to do that face to face, as opposed to having to do a Zoom call with attorney of the Twin Cities.
We have kind of a short time frame. How are we going to notify firms and?
Yeah, we'll have a list of the firms that we know that are interested. We'll put something in the paper. We'll also put something tomorrow on the league's website.
Do we expect someone local?
Yes. We have pretty good, we have pretty good belief that somebody local will do it. The timeframe is right around October 1st to make that transition. Yeah. Any questions about that? Resolution 87 is a pay request for the work being done at King Creek Trail. David, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so this is testament number 4 for the work associated with the trail from our city limits up to the King Creek Park, and then from Morris Thomas Road up to the Johnson Road. So White Company is the contractor. They started work back up here towards mid-June, and this is a progress of what they've done so far this season. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you.
A short agenda relative to the resolutions. Mayor, anything to report?
I want to thank everybody that helped out, volunteered, and did a lot of hard work for Summerfest. It was a great celebration. It's great to see a celebration like that for our 50th anniversary. Thanks to everybody that got involved.
Few challenges with some smoke in the air and then pretty hefty windstorm come through 4:30, 5 o'clock on Friday, but we made it through. And some pretty warm weather too, right? So, anything else, Mayor? John?
Speaking of the trail, I have been contacted by some residents on Johnson Road about the dust from the construction. Reached out to Paul and others, and I don't know if it was in the works, but quite rapidly they got water on it and calcium chloride, so thank you for doing that.
It was already, we've been talking about it. And
Yeah,
sent
must have
it
been.
back, so.
I think the residents, was when I told them it was coming soon, so that's good. Last meeting, we talked briefly about what we were gonna do on Stebby Road, and I think the word was you guys were gonna talk about it a bit at Foursquare. Are we doing the full deal? Are we doing mill and overlay? Are we doing?
We'll talk about it again tomorrow, but I think the consensus was that we proceed with the full project. I think that was the consensus. But we'll talk about tomorrow, and then if so, then we'll start that process to get in front of you.
And neighbors, and I'll do all
Yeah.
that again, and then was that to be built in 27 or 28?
That's the 28th bill.
28, okay. I mentioned it last time, and then I see it's on the park board agenda, but baseball field naming, and I know Mr. Terrence is going to be here tomorrow, so that's perfect. Thank you for getting that on the agenda. The water pump house that David talked about earlier, I helped Trish, we picked some colors, but David, I was just wondering on the schedule on that, they've had the ground open for quite a while and footings in, but just when is that supposed to be done? And are we gonna have it done before the snow flies?
So, yeah, I think Council Gosher, we talked about that briefly last week, and I did talk to SEH, who was our engineer that's designed and managing that project for us. They talked to Lakehead, and Lakehead has, even though they've got to a slow start, they're committed to the deadline that's set forth in the construction documents.
Do you know what that is?
I don't have it on the top of my head.
But it's this year.
It's this year,
Yes.
yes.
And it's, okay. All right. the
Also,
other-
just so you know, they started pouring the foundation walls today.
Oh, did they? So they'll be back on soon and.
Yeah, it's in a weekish, they should be back.
Are they bringing the water lines in through the foundation walls?
It's a sleeve through the
Yeah.
foundation.
The Fickner playground we talked about briefly too, and I know there was some follow-up with that contractor that did the soft.
Yeah.
base
So,
material.
last week, I got an email from the contractor who visited the site with his supplier gave us a few different ideas for the warranty work. I have a meeting set up with him at 9 tomorrow morning, and then I'm gonna be discussing that with staff at Foursquare. And after that, probably on the, I believe it's the 3rd, we'll be bringing a recommendation to the council.
So they did acknowledge it was a warranty claim though? You adjusted that or what?
That's what's gonna be part of the discussion tomorrow.
What? Because there's measurables there, right, on how much deflection and everything as you're walking on it?
I'll say this, it's not uniform. And that the ununiformity is what we need to correct.
Because some of the spots are pretty spongy too. Is that what you're
Exactly,
for?
yes.
So we got time, we have talked about the chiller replacement for this building, but in the meanwhile, Brandon, I know we have LHB doing some work on remediation of some things other than a chiller replacement. Is there control? What's going on with that? And is that?
They're, LHB project managing, Gardner's, the GC. Gardner's a little bit, they got a late start, but now they're actually ahead of the schedule they had projected. They thought it would take them 80 days. They think they'll actually be done within the next couple weeks. So they've got the majority of controls replaced. They have some duct work to do on the fire hall side and some physical piping valve replacements, but the majority of controllers are done.
And then, John, you mentioned work session next Monday, the 27th, we're going to talk about AUAR. And in that regard, we're going to be talking about next steps and all of that type of stuff. And then,
Yeah, I'm not sure the extent of what all of you talked about.
okay. All right. And then this is a question that we had talked about a while back, Joe, about the development, the Scanel development, press release about the notice of a grant and things like that. Have we done anything with that, or are we going to, or?
Yeah, we reached out to them, and the ball's a little bit in their court, obviously, because they're developing, and they want to talk about next steps and celebrate it, so we're a little bit in the holding back and waiting for that.
I see they're well underway, though.
Most of that.
Yeah, that's it.
Brian,
Not after that. Got them all.
Andy, anything?
Just, yeah, with the mayor there, Hermantown Summerfest was a great time. Really appreciated the fireworks on Friday night with the excellent 50th anniversary tribute. Hopefully we can do that each year.
We won't do this each year. I promise you that.
51.
For their birthdays.
There are certain people that are still 29 after 20 years. Joe, anything?
No, not this time.
Chief, start with you, because I don't want to forget you.
Yeah, it's been a really busy summer. This heat makes it even busier for us, as you see in my weekly reports. One thing that we do have to address real soon probably is whether or not we're going to address our staffing issue with the officer that's been out for close to 2 years. I assume we'll talk about that on the staff level soon, but we're getting to the point where 2 years being short-handed is something we need to address. Other than that, things are going smooth in the police department and the fire department. But again, it's just been extremely busy for both departments, I would say. In the fire department, we're recruiting as well. We're short 2 right now on call firefighters, so not a major problem, but we got a couple of spots to fill, so if you know anybody good, it's a great opportunity to give back to the community. So.
Eric?
No, thank you.
Chad?
No, sir.
Joe?
I was working with Chief Grace, and we were checking that out. We haven't really partied very much in Hermantown in the past several days. So August 4th will be National Night Out here at City Hall, awesome event, primarily run by the PD and FT. The afternoon was a great community event too, and it seems like the turnout from Summerfest, that's pretty fast, but we'll see a lot of advertising about that.
Thanks, Joe.
Kevin?
No, sir.
Paul? Brian, anything else? Zach?
No, sir.
David?
Yes, I have a couple of quick things. One, as we're sitting here, Trish looked up the completion date for the second water line connection is March 26th of 27. So we built that extra time in there because of the long lead time for the electrical switchgear for that building. So we anticipate the building and the parking lot are going to be done this fall, and the electrical stuff in the spring, and then up and running in 27. Second thing, I just wanted to give the council a heads up on our trail project with Vite. I'm working through the details of a change order that I'll be bringing to council. The nature of the change order is we have an opportunity to adjust some of the grade along the trail, and what that does is it eliminates one retaining wall and reduces the length and the height of another retaining wall. So we're anticipating a 6-figure savings to the city on this change order. And I was hoping to get it on the agenda for this evening, but we have some points that we still have to negotiate on the pricing, so look for that at the August 3rd meeting.
Trish, anything? Gunnar, anything?
I don't have anything.
I thought we had several presentations. I thought we'd go closer to 6:30, but I guess we're done. So, take a break. We got to at 6:30.